Hi, hello, welcome. I have some newness to show you. I'm really excited about it. Half of it comes from a brand that we know, love and cherish on this channel, Prada Beauty, and the other half comes from a brand that I actually have, believe it or not, never tried before, which is Danessa Myricks Beauty. The two products that I picked up from Prada Beauty come from Look Fantastic. They had a fantastic sale, and what can I say? I was feeling a little bit sorry for myself. I needed a little bit of a pick-me-up, and somehow the Quad in Poetry and another one of the Prada Soft Matte lipsticks ended up in my cart. And you know, a girl can't say no to a sale, which is also what prompted the other purchase that I'm going to show you. Well, actually, that was prompted by several things. I've been very curious about Danessa Myricks for quite a while, and our beloved enabler Alicia Archer has been talking about their blurring balm powder quite a bit in the last couple of videos that she showed, and I was quite intrigued. Now, if you ask Mariam, why is it that you have not tried Danessa Myricks Beauty so far? You're like the last person on earth to try the brand, and you have a YouTube channel. What is wrong with you? I don't really exactly know, or better said, I know, and I'll tell you why. The reason is that it turns out that as a person, I am very, I'm the kind of person that commits to a brand, and it takes a lot to get me to try a new brand. And then depending on how things go with this new brand, if I try their products and I fall in love with them, I become committed. On the other hand, if I try their products and I'm not impressed, they're forever, they forever fall out of my graces. And I've come close a couple of times with Danessa Myricks Beauty. I was quite intrigued with those palettes that have the creams and the powders, that have the neutral version with like the more browny shades, and the rosier version. The rosier version wasn't really for me, but the one with the browns was I was very close to buying that a couple of times. I have been curious about her eyeshadows, but the thing I don't like about her eyeshadow palettes is that they have this very like rainbow feel to them, and I'm just not into the rainbow. I want a curated color story that has a certain direction to it, and it doesn't feel like a random compilation of colors in a variety of different duochromes. I'm sure her eyeshadows are fabulous, and I'm sure those palettes have a lot of merit to them because they're very well loved by the community. But I am yet to try her eyeshadows because I'm just waiting for the perfect palette. In fact, I'm waiting for her to release one of those like 6 pans, because she just released a palette now for the spring with a couple of pastel shades and some neutrals in a 6-pan format, and I would love for her to release something in this format in a color story that speaks to me, and then I'm definitely going to pounce right on it. So I decided that I'm going to give a try to her base products. So the product that I'm really excited, actually both products that I purchased I'm really excited about, and they're both sort of enabled by Alicia Archer. But we've got here the Yummy Skin Blurring Balm Powder. So that is sort of like this base product, which is a cream, and then it has this new technology to it, which is called the Obsolete technology. I'm going to read about it to you in a little bit from the website, because I was quite intrigued by that. And I've also purchased the Yummy Skin Blurring Balm Powder Flushed in the shade Spiced Latte. Spiced Latte looks like the absolute most delightful brownie, rosy, terracotta kind of shade, and I've been thinking about buying this blush for a really long time, which by the way contains the same Obsolete technology, which brings me to let's find out what this Obsolete technology is all about. And I think possibly that's the thing that maybe converted me to trying this product, because blurring balm powder for someone who has somewhat more normal leaning to oily skin doesn't sound particularly appealing, because I always thought that's going to look like a hot mess on my skin after a couple of hours. But apparently this Obsolete technology is actually specifically targeted at combating this oiliness on your skin. So let me read about it so we can all learn here. So the Yummy Skin Blurring Balm Powder drenches your skin in hydration, while balancing oil production. It is powered by hyaluronic acid and Swedish Obsolete, a first of its kind ultra-porous form of magnesium carbonate, which is twice as absorbent as talc, while also being a cleaner, more sustainable option. We love a more sustainable option. Also, talc is going to be banned in the EU possibly from 2027, so that's even better. Olive-derived squalene is also a key in this groundbreaking formula, supporting oil production and diminishing visible signs of aging. expect a petal-like texture that feels like a balm but sets like a powder, giving a long-lasting shine-free look. Well, that sounds delightful and I can't wait to try it. It comes in 11 shades. The shade that I chose is the shade number 3 because that was described as a light with neutral undertones, which is usually what works for me across other, you know, base type products. So I'm hoping that it's going to work, and I think because it's a somewhat flexible product in terms of, excuse me, the coverage that it gives, possibly if it's a little bit too light or a little bit too dark, you're not really going to notice that all that much. Now that all sounds extremely promising. I'm very excited, so I'm going to open up the Yummy Skin Blurring Balm Powder. I am really happy that it comes with like a little spatula, so you can scoop out the product and remain hygienic while you know, using it. And then you just have to unscrew the little cap. The packaging is actually very nice feeling in the hand, and maybe this is the place to comment that one of the considerations I've always had with the Danessa Myricks products is that I was never very attracted to her packaging, because she places herself as like a higher end brand, not necessarily luxury, but definitely more on the high end, and I have certain expectations when it comes to like a higher end brand. And I'm absolutely not implying that in photos her packaging looks cheap and unappealing, not at all. It just didn't really click with me. It's just, you know how certain brands have a bit like a cleaner aesthetic to them. The packaging is well made, nice feeling in the hand, but at the same time there's like a simplicity to it. I think there's maybe something to be said about the Danessa Myricks' packaging and how it looks, you know, it doesn't have the bells and the whistles attached to it, but it is well made, and I think this is really what it looks like, and I think this is really pretty. It feels really lovely in the hand. I'm not exactly sure how I'm supposed to apply it. I'm going to zoom you in a little bit for this part, so that we can see up close and personal what we're dealing with. I'm going to just apply the product straight as it is, because that's usually how I go about my foundations. I don't use a primer or anything. I'm just going to scoop out a little bit of the product on the little spatula thing, maybe this much. I'm not entirely sure how much I would need, but I'm going to put that on the back of my hand and spread it a bit around with the spatula. And just looking at the color, I think this might be a color that works fairly well for me. And I'm not entirely sure what the best way to apply this is, but I'm going to approach it like this. I'm going to take my classic base from Sonia G, which I just washed yesterday, so it's looking a little bit flat. And I'm going to start stippling the product on and then going like this on my face. Okay, so it's very interesting because when it goes on the face, it immediately almost like dries out like a powder, almost as if you're applying like one of those like mineral powder products. And I can also see now that I definitely did not scoop out enough, so I'm going to scoop out a bit more, repeat, and then just see where we go from there. In terms of like color match, I think this is the perfect color match. It's essentially my skin right now. And I'm going to continue applying that and blending it out. It looks to be rather of a, you know, light to possibly being able to be built up to somewhat more medium coverage, but I am not someone who looks for high coverage. Even my high coverage foundations I like to apply with a light hand so that they look a bit more light to medium tops. And this is applying quite easily. I have to say, I had a feeling that if you have dry skin, you might start seeing it gather in pores or clinging on to dry patches that you didn't even know you had. Right now my skin is feeling very nice and hydrated, so I'm not experiencing any sort of like weird clinging to patches. It's actually applying really nicely. I feel like it is blurring a little bit the pores, especially here on my cheek area where I have quite the craters to deal with. I don't personally feel like I need any more coverage than this. I think it's looking very nice. It feels very silky on the skin. It does not feel tacky whatsoever. And it looks actually quite nice on the skin. And something I've been wondering about, because it is marketed as the type of product that doesn't need to be set with a powder, whether I can really get away with not setting it. And I think today I'm not really going anywhere. It's already late in the afternoon. I'm actually not going to set it. I'm just going to leave it as it is. But so far I love how it looks on the skin. It looks very natural. It just looks like I applied a very light veil of something to just, you know, sort of correct some of the imperfections on my face, fill in a little bit of those pores, but without really feeling like I've applied an actual foundation. That's why I just really get this feeling, you know, when you're applying those like old school like mineral foundations with like the kabuki brushes. That's a little bit of feel that I get, but it's like this cream that immediately sets into a powder. I don't know how else to describe it. You know what? I just realized that I'm actually curious if I can get away with putting this under my eyes as a concealer. So I'm going to just grab it like this on my finger. I'm going to apply it here. This may go really wrong and I may end up with really dry looking under eyes, but for the sake of science I feel like we should try this. I'm going to grab my mini base from Sonia and I'm just going to push the product here, because this is the kind of product that would be so convenient to travel with, because I don't really like to travel heavy when it comes to makeup anymore. I've recently been taking my Chanel, what is it called? One of those tint-like things that I use as a foundation, also as a concealer. And I completely ditched traveling with concealer. So far, it's actually not looking too bad, to be honest with you. I'm going to apply just a bit more here where I have this like blue vein poking out. And I'm going to put a bit more here in the corner of my eye where I also have a little bit of discoloration. I'm just going in with my finger. And I'll be honest with you, I don't know how this is going to wear throughout the day, but it is actually looking really nice under my eyes as well. So far I'm able to get away with it as like a one and done base product kind of thing. I don't need a concealer, I just used this product. Wow, this really impressed me. I'm like super fascinated by this product. I'm very curious how it's going to wear. I'm also very curious how this would wear on days when my skin is really dry, because I feel like then it might start clinging on to dry patches. But I will keep you updated as time goes along. But so far, really impressed with how this applied. Now, shall we take a look at the delightful blush in the shade Spice Latte. So Spice Latte is one of those shades that our beloved Alicia would describe as a bronzer. So a hybrid between a bronzer and a blush. And I would highly agree that this is the kind of shade that you can, I think, use to serve both purposes. Again, the packaging is very cute. It's significantly smaller, obviously, compared to the blurring Balm powder. It has a clear lid, so you can see the color, which is very convenient if you have multiple of these. And again, the packaging does not feel cheap by any means, and I actually quite like this like coppery metallic element to it. The same with the blurring Balm powder. I really like the packaging. I'm so happy that I finally decided to try Danessa Myricks Beauty. Okay, look at the color of this. This is gorgeous. I am going to dip my finger into it. Again, it has the same technology, that Upsolite technology. Let's give it a swatch. Oh, that looks absolutely delightful. Look at that. Okay, I'm going to apply this simply as like a blush bronzer kind of situation. You know what? Maybe I'll do my brows first, but I'll do those off camera so that we're done with the brows and they don't have to distract us. I'm going to conveniently take the little spatula that I have from the blurring Balm powder to possibly scoop out a little bit of the blush and use that from the back of my hand. Although I wash my brushes quite on the regular, so I can also see myself just dipping into the actual product with a very dense synthetic brush such as this one. This one is from Spectrum Collections, but I am going to now take here a little bit of what I applied on the back of my hand, and I'm going to stipple that on my skin. And you can see that the shade is actually quite buildable, and I am already running out of product on the back of my hand, so I think I'm just going to dip into the actual pan to apply this, just like that, and I'm going to build it up. Oh, okay, now I went a bit overboard. So let's see how much we can blend this out and how quickly. And again, I'm going to apply this across the whole perimeter here where I would usually apply both my blush and my bronzer. Dipping into the product so enthusiastically, given the depth of the shade, was possibly a little too optimistic of me, but I think we fixed that quite nicely. This is a beautiful shade. It's not really one of those like terracotta shades which appears quite red on me. I'm going to pile it up because I really want you to be able to see the undertone of the color. But this doesn't appear to be the kind of shade that applies very red on my cheeks, because the problem I have, well, the problem. the thing that happens to me very often with terracotta shades is because terracotta is some sort of a blend between red, yellow, a bit of brown, a bit of orange, you know, if there's too much red in the formula, such as for example Paradise Venus from Pat, I need to be very careful because I can go from this burnt sun-kissed look to looking like I have an infection on my skin very quickly, because that color translates very red on my skin. This takes on a much more of like a clay terracotta. There's a bit more of a subtlety to the tone. There's quite a bit of brown, I think, in here, and I think it looks quite lovely. Maybe the strategy of applying it on the back of my hand was possibly the better approach, because when I dip straight into the product, I go overboard very quickly because it is quite emollient, so when you dip your brush in there, it packs on quite a punch. Luckily it blends out quite nicely, and I think once it's blended out it doesn't look too crazy. And today, for the sake of science, I'm almost over applying it. So this is the shade Spiced Latte for you on my skin in pure unadulterated daylight, as I like to call it. I think this is a very pretty shade. I love that there is so much like brown in here, because it's very difficult for me to find shades in this color range that have enough brown in them and are not too orange, too peachy, or too red. I really like this color. I'm going to pop on a tiny bit of the Victoria Beckham highlighter stick in the shade Pearl, just so I have a nice highlighter going on. Just taking that on like a nice brush here, a fluffy brush. This one is from Colourpop, a very old brush from Colourpop, and I'm transferring it that way onto the skin for just like a very light highlighter glow. I'm not applying a lot, just to complement, you know, the matte finish of the powder, like the blurring balm powders that I put on my face, because they do end up having quite a matte finish to the skin. I wouldn't even say this is like a demi matte. There's no amount of glow here, okay? This is just quite matte. So I do think that bringing in a little bit of glow here to the cheekbones is almost necessary. And now I'm curious to compare how this shade compares to some of my favorite terracottas in my collection. First, I'm going to take a product that is also in a similar formula. So I'm going to take Sun-Kissed Seduction, which is one of the cream blushes from Pat McGrath Labs, to swatch next to Spice Latte from Danessa Myricks. I think there's a little bit more of like a red tone in here. These are also a lot like balmier and dewier in terms of their finish, so they also appear a bit less opaque and pigmented. I do think that, like from memory, when I apply Sun-Kissed Seduction on my skin, it pulls a bit more like a brick red. Let's swatch up against another one of my favorite terracotta shades. This is the number 08 from the Melting Powder Blush formula from Suku, which I think would probably also be considered quite similar in tone. I'm going to swatch that right here. This also possibly has a little bit more like a brick red tone to it compared to Spice Latte. There's just a little bit more brown in Spice Latte, and I really like that. And finally, let's compare to one of the latest shades in my collection to join the family within the terracotta color range, and that is the shade Nocturnal Nude from the YSL blush range that was released several months ago. I'm going to apply that right here. And as you can see, this also has like more of like a peachiness almost to the tone. There's more orange and peach compared to Spice Latte. And I thought I would actually demo the lipstick from Prada, the soft matte lipstick that I picked up in the shade Caramel for you before we go on to the eye look, because I thought you might get a better idea of what this color actually looks like, because sometimes once you apply the eyeshadow you get so distracted by the colors on the eyes that you don't really pay attention so much on the specific undertone that the lipstick takes, and I think I'm going to do that. First, I'm going to take off the lip balm that I'm currently wearing, which is in the shade Maple, which is also from Prada. I absolutely love this balm. I love the formula. I love this color. I adore this color. I'm going to define my lips with the Lisa Eldridge Sculpt, and what was this called again? The Sculpt and Shade Lip Pencil in the shade 1N, because I think that would be a perfect match for Caramel. Oh, the plushiness of the formula on these lips never ceases to amaze me. It is just so absolutely majestic. And this color is, what can I say? Magnificent really is the right word. It is a beautiful light beige brown. It is exactly what I wanted it to be. I have two other like sort of like neutral leaning soft mattes in my collection from Prada. I have the shades Sedona and I have the shade Cyan. Cyan is a gorgeous, like more like a burnt orange color, and Sedona is more of like a brick red nude, whereas this is the perfect like nude beige brown. I love it. It has like a hint of mauve to it, but not too much. I have just a couple of lipsticks here to compare to Caramel because I don't want to overdo the comparisons. Obviously, you know, this is a beautiful brown nudie shade. We have plenty of those in our collections. I'm sure I have enough similar lipsticks. So here is Muse from Lisa Eldridge, which I'm going to swatch right next to Caramel. And of course, this is in the Velvet formula from Lisa Eldridge, so there's a lot more opacity and pigmentation compared to the soft matte formula. But can you see that there's just a little bit more of like a pink hue in Muse than there is in Caramel? There's more brown and like more beige in here, which I really like. And finally, I wanted to actually compare to one of my matte lipsticks from Gucci. This one is in the shade Suzanne Sunset, because it reminded me a little bit of Suzanne Sunset, but possibly less grungy. Suzanne Sunset is gorgeous. It's one of my favorite like nudie brown beigey lipsticks as of late. But I thought, it reminds me a little bit of this shade. But you can see there is like a little bit more of like that grungy gray undertone to Suzanne Sunset. And this sits somewhere more between being a pink nude and a brown nude, without really leaning one way or the other too much. Actually, you know what? I want to swatch up against another Gucci lipstick that I have in my collection. This one is from their satin line, and it is in the shade Eliza Sand, which is more of like a beige nude rosy shade. And I just wanted to see the two compared to each other, because when I put this on my lips I thought, oh, does it remind me of this lipstick or that lipstick? But I really wanted to see the differences in the undertone, and I think this is perfectly illustrated by the swatch. There's a bit more of a rosy undertone, and it's also what I see on my lips when I wear Eliza Sand compared to Caramel. Caramel is just such a beautifully balanced nudie brown. I really like this color. Let me know what you think about all the products that we have applied so far, but honestly, so far I'm really impressed. I'm also really impressed at my under eyes, which remain non-dry and very like smooth and silky looking, which is very surprising to me because pretty much very few other like base makeup products can look so nice under my eyes, especially something that goes on feeling kind of dry. It's very interesting. Let's move on to my beloved new quad. This is in the shade Poetry. Now, truth be told, I just bought the insert this time, so the little refill. I already have the shades Pansy, Pure and Pulse, and I have made it no secret that I am absolutely enamored with the formula of Prada, because it's that gorgeous cream to powder formula. It's so smooth on the lids, it blends out so easily, it like puts this like filter effect almost on your skin, and it just looks absolutely gorgeous. And I love how like fun these little quads are, because they have the pops of color. Now, this specific shade of the quad has been tempting me ever since the beginning days of these quads, because obviously I love the color green, and this is the only quad that features a green shade. But the other shade that I was very attracted to is this beautiful pink here, because it's the kind of like grown-up classy pink that I am very drawn to. I don't like the bubblegummy Barbie pink, like the, you know what pink I'm talking about. I don't like that kind of pink because it just doesn't suit me. But these kind of like neutral, rosy, grown-ass lady pinks, very much up my alley. So let's do some quick swatches and then I'm going to do a look. Oh, that's gorgeous. So here are swatches for Poetry. We have this beautiful deep brown shade, which looks to be a much more neutral brown compared to the eggplant one that I have in the shade Pulse, and the much warmer one that I have in the shade Pure. This is a beautiful like rosy peachy shade. Then we have this beautiful mid-toned rosy nude metallic shade. And finally we have this Fluff of Clouds, which is usually the formula of these like colorful shades, which looks so like fluffy on the lids, and it's so blurring, and you can really control the amount of pigment that you put with a shade like this, and I don't think you can ever really go overboard. So I think this is gorgeous, and I can't wait to do a look with it. And what I've been thinking, how interesting it would be to combine this green shade here with the holographic duochrome shade from Pansy, because Pansy has a bit of like a green sparkling duochrome going to it, and if you apply it over a green base, the two might look really interesting together. So that might be something we can try in the future, but for now let's just focus on Poetry and do a quick little simple look with it. I'm going to start off with this shade, and I'm just going to apply it as a one and done on my lids because I'm curious how it looks like. It reminds me actually of a shade that I have in the Guerlain, one of my Guerlain quads, Imperial Moon. In Imperial Moon, it has a shade that has a very similar tone, and I really like applying that shade as a base and putting something very light and sparkly over it. Next, I'm going to grab a little pencil type brush, and of course I'm going to take the brown shade to apply in my lashes for a little bit of definition right here. And again, these have this gorgeous cream to powder formula where there is essentially pretty much no fallout. Even when you load your brush with product, I've never really seen much fallout with these shades, and because of that cream to powder formula, they don't apply with too much punch. So even a dark shadow like this is just not going to translate as dark on your lids, which could be something that really frustrates you, or like me, something that you really enjoy, because sometimes I really don't want to have a block of dark brown or black in my lashes. I just want like a hint of something that's darker to define the lashes, but without worrying that it's going to be too much too fast. And this is really the kind of formula where you have this kind of control with. You can continue building it up until it does appear more like a block of color, although I don't think you can ever really achieve that with this formula. And it just blends out so easily. I love the texture of these eyeshadows, but I can see how what I enjoy about them would be something that might really frustrate you. I can 100% understand that. That looks gorgeous. I love the undertone of this brown. Perhaps now that it's on my lids, I can detect like a hint of like an eggplantiness to it, but it is by no means an overwhelmingly purple based brown. It's a gorgeous shade of brown. And now, without further ado, I'm just going to stick my finger into this beautiful rosy shade, and I'm going to apply that onto my lids. And the metallic shades in the original quads from Prada, they do apply with quite the metallic punch, but I find them to never be too much and to have a beautiful texture to them. At least on my skin, they always look very, very flattering and very, very smooth and have a beautiful shine to them. And this shade is no exception. I think it looks really elegant. It is not overly metallic, it just gives enough sheen. And it's a beautiful, very elegant shade of pink too. You can probably wet your brush or apply this shade over a glitter glue if you want a bit more impact from it. But I enjoy, you know, the flexibility that these formulas give you in terms of how crazy you want to go with the metallic finish. Finally, you guessed it, I'm of course going to apply the green here on my lower lashes. Now the green takes on quite a blue undertone to it. So if you prefer your greens to be more like forest greens or olive greens, this is not going to be the type of green you will enjoy. This definitely takes quite on a blue undertone to it. But because of this specific formula, I feel like it will look very flattering on your lids, and you can control the amount of pigment pretty much to your liking. It can be a very sheer green, or it can be a very punchy green, depending on how you work with this shade. Right now I'm going for like a little fluff of green, just to show you how something that looks so vibrant in the pan can apply so very subtly. The blue that I have in the shade Pure, so the quad in the shade Pure, here there's like this cornflowery blue, is the same thing. It looks really, really vibrant in the pan, but then when you put it on your skin and you blend it out, it looks like a fluff of color. It's so light and it's so subtle and so beautiful. Love these. Now this quad doesn't really feature an inner corner highlight, so I'm just going to open this very old palette here from Anastasia Beverly Hills, and I'm going to take this shade here to apply in my inner corners. I think that fits perfectly with the look. I do have a somewhat matching green that I can put in my waterline, and that will actually make the look quite much more vibrant. This is one of the Kiko eyeshadow sticks. This one is in a color that's been discontinued. This is the shade 10, which I think quite perfectly fits the shade in the Prada quad. Yes, it does. So I'm going to lightly apply that in my waterline to complete the look. And here is the final look. I applied a little bit of the Prada Scope mascara on my lashes to complete it. I'm just wearing the mascara today. No Estee Lauder little black primer because, like I said, it's late in the afternoon. I can't be bothered. I think the mascara looks gorgeous on its own as well, just in case anyone didn't believe that it looks glorious on its own. It's a beautiful mascara. I will say this though, because I'm not wearing the Estee Lauder little black primer, you can see that my lashes have lost all of their curl. So I curled my lashes before I applied the mascara. So whatever curl you see right now is the natural curl of my lashes. So unfortunately, like I said and like I accurately predicted, without that little black primer from Estee Lauder, no mascara will hold the curl on me. But the mascara is beautiful. Like, we will talk about it when I do my monthly roundup and empties, which will be very soon. This is a gorgeous mascara. If you are not bothered by the price of it, every other aspect of it is really quite lovely. Now I can't wait to hear your thoughts about the products that I tried today, but here is my summary. Out of the 4 products that I tried today, the blurring balm powder thing from Danessa Myricks has shot straight into the sky, because I am so freaking impressed by how this thing applied, especially on my under eyes, how flawless my skin looks, and how easy that was. I think this is a beautiful product. Okay, I finally stuck it back onto the packaging. I know this product's been around for a while and I'm probably one of the last people on earth to try it, but if you, like me, were skeptical about it because you have normal to oily skin and balmy products just never really worked out for you, trust me, this is a completely different, like, this is in a league of its own. This is not something I've ever tried before, and I'm so incredibly impressed. Please let me know if you've tried this product and what you think about it. The only consideration, to reiterate myself, I think would be, if you have very dry skin, I do think this could cling on to dry patches under your skin because it goes on quite powdery. That is the only consideration I would add. The Spiced Latte Blurring Balm Flush is a beautiful color. This is a very Mariam color. I'm really going to enjoy this over the summer, and I am curious to hear your thoughts about it. Don't forget to leave me a comment if you are on the drier side of the spectrum when it comes to your skin and you have these products from Danessa Myricks. What is your opinion on them? One thing that obviously I'm very curious about is how these are going to wear. Today is not going to be the right day for me to test it because I'm at home and I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going to sweat on my bike. I'm not going to walk around at work. I'm going to definitely come back and give you a full-on review once I have put this to the test. But I did not set this with powder, and I can tell you for a fact right now this absolutely did not need setting on my face. So I'm going to continue trying it with powder, without powder. I'm going to test it throughout the day in the worst of conditions when I sweat a lot, and I will come and let you know how this performs. But I have very high hopes. Let's briefly talk about the products that I kind of already knew that I'm really going to like. The soft matte lipstick from Prada in the shade Caramel is just gorgeous. It is everything I wanted it to be, honestly. I wanted like a nudie brown from the soft matte lipstick range, and this did everything for me that I wanted and more. So check, love it. The quad in the shade Poetry is pretty much also what I expected, because I know and love this formula. I knew that I'm going to enjoy these colors. I mean, look at this eye look and tell me that it is not grown up, classy, but at the same time fun. And this is exactly what I think Prada was going for with these quads. Lovely. So overall, I'm quite pleased with everything that I purchased. Did I really need to purchase any of it? Probably not. But every now and then I like to try new things. I like to share my new experiences with you. We can all agree that Danessa Myricks was the absolute best experience today. I really enjoyed myself. Hopefully this doesn't like open the gates to me like all of a sudden going into full-on Danessa Myricks craze, but we shall see. Let me know what you thought about the look, the product that I tried today. Do you have any of them? What do you think about them? Let's continue chatting in the comment section below. As usual, thank you so very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!